morning, Quadcopter 101 here with a review of another neat new airplane, folks. This is the Zhiyang ZY425 land, sea, air aircraft. An airplane that you can launch from hand, in the air, from ground, supposedly, and also from water. And we're going to try to demonstrate that, too, when we go flying tomorrow with this thing. Now, it's only a 260 millimeter wingspan. It's a relatively small aircraft and weighs only 42 grams with the battery installed. What does that mean? That means that this airplane does not require registration in nearly most countries. You know, I don't think there is any country that you're required to register this particular aircraft. It's more of a toy airplane than a real hobby aircraft, but it is sufficient for beginner pilots to learn to fly with, specifically for learning how to turn and maintain orientation in a turn, and also how to use throttle to climb and descend with the throttle. So that's, you know, this is its purpose. It's very inexpensive too. I believe it's under $30, so it makes it perfect for a beginner pilot who's thinking about transitioning into airplanes or learning to fly airplanes. This is a nice one to start with. Okay, now it's made of crash-resistant EPP foam. It's going to be hard for you to actually hurt this one, folks, if when flying, because I don't think it's going to fly very fast, for number one. And number two, unless you smack directly into hard concrete, you know, in most cases, this thing is going to be really hard to break. Okay. However, that doesn't mean that people aren't going to do it. Like I said, smacking it straight into concrete probably could do that. So that's why I always recommend flying over a grassy field. If you're flying over land, that is, always try to fly over a grassy field. It minimizes damage to your airplanes when you do crash, and everybody does crash. You know, there's nobody avoids crashes in RC. So if you're crashing into a grassy, smooth, soft grassy field, it's much better on your airplane's longevity as compared to crashing onto a runway, a hardened runway. Now, it's waterproof, of course, since we're talking land, sea, and air, and the battery compartment is located right here. This is where you install the battery. The battery it uses is a little 3.7 volt, 300 milliampere hour battery, but they only give you one, folks. However, this is a very common battery, along with another battery I just tried, and it is a 3.5 volt, 3.7 volt, 350 milliampere hour battery. That fits in there too. So I'm going to try to do two flights tomorrow. I'm going to try to do a water flight, followed by a over-land flight. We're going to start the water flight with the stock 300 milliampere hour battery. But since I don't have a second battery, I'm going to switch to the 350 for the land flight. So it should give me a little more flight time than I get with this particular battery when we go flying because of the extra milliampere hours. Now, I don't see any mention of gyro stabilization with it for this particular aircraft in the advertisements for it. So I'm not sure if it's actually stabilized. I put a battery in already and moved it around a bit. I heard a slight change in the pitch of the motors, so there might be gyro stabilization, but I can't guarantee that. Now, I'll be able to tell when we take it out in the field. Gyro stabilization would make this very helpful because it would prevent the aircraft from flipping over in flight. So, now one other thing, it's two-channel I mentioned. We only have throttle control, folks, and rudder control. And the way this works is, for rudder control, it uses differential thrust. So say we want to turn to the left, what that would do is make this motor spin faster and this motor spin slower to get that left turn. And the same going right, this motor would spin faster and this motor would slow down to make it do a right turn on land or on sea or on air. So that's how you turn it with this one here, and this makes it go up and down, the throttle. Increase throttle and the aircraft will climb, decrease throttle and the aircraft will descend, just like a real aircraft. Okay. Now, there's another thing that this has, and I'm going to use a different than stock battery because I'm saving the power in that battery for tomorrow's flight. But this has LED lights, pretty bright LED lights, and let me show you what they look like. If I can get that battery connector to come out here. And let's plug this battery in. And there's the top LED lights. Let's bind it. Okay, there's the top LED lights that we got. We have green and white on the top. And on the belly, we have blue and purple. And it looks kind of whitish on my screen, but take my word for it, it's purple. Okay. But let's give it some throttle. I want to show you, folks, what I mean about... See, I'm not hearing a lot of changing pitch of the motors when I move right or left. So I'm not sure this does have gyro stabilization, but again, we'll find out when we go flying. And I wouldn't expect it in the price range of this particular airplane. You know, I think it's close to $20, like I said there, for this aircraft. So it's a very cheap beginner's learn to fly airplane. Oops, sorry. Now, let's go over what you get, or let me show you one more time, real close, what the aircraft looks like. It is actually a pretty airplane. It's got this nice Teflon coating on the bottom of it, along with the leading edges of the wings to protect them. So there is some protection from the Teflon to prevent digging it up, especially taking off from ground. You know, this is going to slide along on the ground, and this should help make it nice and slippery to take off from the ground. So let's go over what you get in the box with this particular aircraft. You get 2 instruction manuals. One's entirely in Chinese, but this one's entirely in English. So this is the one for most folks that view my channel would be using. Along with, you get the airplane, and you get a controller for the airplane. The buttons on the controller, you have, you know, again, I mentioned throttle and rudder control, along with left and right tuning. In case this wanders left or right, there is some trim control, and so you might actually need this trim control if there is no gyro stabilization. We'll see. If it drifts off to the left or right, I'll try to adjust it with these buttons here. Now, it also can go backwards, folks, and where this comes into play, especially when you're in water. You know, you bump up against something and it won't go any farther forward. You can make it turn backwards, left or right, or full backwards by just pressing both of these buttons together simultaneously, and this will go full backwards too. So this can go fly, or not fly, but it can float backwards when you're using it as a boat. So you get that controller, and you get one 3.7 volt one 3.7 volts, 300 milliampere hour battery. I wish they provided 2, but you only get 1. And also you get the charger for that battery, along with a spare set of propellers. So that's the Zhiyang ZY425. Let's take it out in the field, folks, and see how it flies. Hope you enjoy this flight.
Good morning, Quadcopter 101 here, and welcome to beautiful Pleasant Ridge Park on a beautiful summer day here in Erie, Pennsylvania, or near Erie, Pennsylvania. Actually, this is between Fairview and Girard, Pennsylvania. But for the test flight, the ZY425 from Zhiyang. Okay, to start this up, we need to first plug in the battery, and you open up the battery case by pulling there. And let me put this in my pocket temporarily here while I plug in the battery. And I got to put that under my arm. And plugging in the battery like so. Battery's plugged in. Next thing I want to do is put the lid back on, the waterproof lid, they say, and put it on a flat level surface. We're going to try to take off from the ground today, folks. Okay, there we go. And then turn on the transmitter like so, and bind it to the airplane by up and down on the transmitter. And testing that we got throttle. We do. Okay, let's see if it takes off from ground. Well, what do you know, folks? There it does. Okay, let me see if this thing has any gyro stabilization. I don't think it does. I'm seeing right now, I doubt it. It has power though, but if you give it a hard right, it's possibility of hitting the ground. So I don't know if this really does have gyro stabilization, but it flies well enough just by the design alone. It's actually a nice flyer. Okay, we got a little bit of a wind here. We're seeing how it performs in the wind. It performs very well. The wind's only about 3-4 miles an hour. Okay, it's going up into that wind. Probably a little bit tail heavy here, but I'm going to leave it that way. I can correct that, and the way to correct that is putting a little bit of weight on the nose, but I don't want to do that because it climbs real well, keeping it nose heavy like that, and I want to be able to climb. So we're going to fly it. Ooh, close, huh? So yeah, no gyro stabilization on this. But it is proportional steering. If you give it just a little bit, it doesn't flip over. A little bit of a turn. I'm trying to show you that right now. Normally, on a 2-channel plane that's not stabilized, if you did this and held it like this, held it in a turn, it'll flip over. But this one's not doing that. It's proportional steering, so maybe there is some slight gyro stabilization. They're just not advertising it, because this should be turning over instead of continuing to fly. Coming to the left. Harder, harder, harder. Harder turn. It's climbing. I don't want it to climb. I want it to come down low. Let's go over here a bit, because I'm going to do some circles around me. If I can bring it down, that is. There we go. It's coming down. This is flying well, isn't it? You didn't think a $23 airplane would be able to fly so well, but it can. So, yeah. So I wonder if I'm going to try to fly to, from water next. We're over here first trying it on land. So we'll switch to water next if there's nobody over at the pond that I want to fly at. Sometimes there's people fishing there, and I can't fly like I want to there when I got these Lancy airs. One the other way. This flies well. It's not hard to fly, folks, as you can see here. I'm flying with one hand. So yeah, for beginner pilots, turn to the left, doing figure eights. This is good for beginner pilots. Oh, hell, right through this. I'm sorry. Sorry for that, folks. Right through the sun. That's the big thing. Beginner pilots need to learn to fly, or not to fly through the sun, like I just did. Trying to bring it back down now. I want to go clockwise around my position. Adjusting the throttle a little bit. A little more throttle. Yeah. Coming around, coming around, coming around now. More throttle, more throttle, more throttle, more throttle for this hard turn. This hard, whoa, okay. So that's cool. It's a nice little airplane for beginners. For beginner pilots to learn to fly with. Very easy to fly this thing, once you get it in the air. Now, I do recommend beginners, you fly in an open field like I'm doing here. You know, find yourself a nice park with a nice open field, you know, your local sports complex here. Come out early in the morning when nobody's here like I normally do. Early morning flights, there's hardly anybody here. So you can not be disturbed. But dang, that's a nice little flyer, ain't it? Let's go up high. Let's see if we can go up high with this thing. Okay, we're pretty dang high right there. Reason being, I want to see it glide. Ready? Reducing throttle gradually, and how well does it glide? Does it turn in a glide? Yeah, it's gliding right now, folks, as the throttle's all the way off. But it's making noise as I'm turning because that one motor's running to turn it. Yeah, this thing is stabilized, folks. It's gyro stabilized. I got to confirm that now, because there's no way I'd be able to do this. Proportional steering like I'm doing right now without it being gyro stabilized. The old ones that were not gyro stabilized, you had to do bump turns like this to turn. This one here, it's proportional steering, so it's definitely gyro stabilized, although not advertised as such. And you can see it wobbling too. That's the gyros. They need to advertise this gyro stabilized, that this is gyro stabilized. And the price of this is perfect for a beginner pilot too. I hope it stays like that. So bang on, you might be selling a lot of these. These are kind of fun. I like Lancy airs. And this one's Price is Right. Now the other Landsea here, if you gave it full throttle, one of them, the other 2-channel one, if you gave it full throttle would do a loop. But no, this one just climbs real hard. Let me bring it in close again. Reducing throttle, gradually increasing throttle, increasing throttle. More throttle to make this hard bank turn. Fun plane. So yeah, I recommend this one for beginners right now because it seems to be a good flyer. It is a good flyer. Look at that thing go. Zoom. Oh, get dizzy there. Reduce that throttle a bit. That was a little too fast. I was doing that because making hard banking turns and need that throttle to stay in the air when you're making those hard banking turns, but it was trying to climb again. Let's see if my dog likes this. No, don't want to see if my dog likes this. She will eat it. She will definitely eat it. Dang, it's a nice little plane for the price. Fun little plane for the price. Oh, is there any more power left? We'll find out here. Another reason why you want to crash in grassy fields, folks. You know, greatly lessens the chance of damaging your airplane. And the lights are blinking, so it does give you a warning. Let's see if you can see that, folks. See the blinking lights? That's telling us the battery power is gone. When it doesn't have enough power to stay in the air anymore, it's time to land. I hope you can see that, folks. Here in the sun. Bring it up close. So that's the ZY425. Nice little flyer. A lot of fun to fly. I enjoyed that little flight with this little toy plane. So I hope you enjoyed this flight. This is Quadcopter 101 signing out. Now let's see if we can actually fly this on water. We're going to go over to that pond that I know where I can fly this from. See if there's anybody there. And if not, we're going to try to launch it from water. Good morning. Welcome to beautiful Waterworks Park in Girard, Pennsylvania for the water test flight of the ZY425. Okay, I already have this bound to the aircraft. We are ready to go here. So I'm going to just plop it in the water like so and give a little throttle. And throttling up, see if it can take off. It did. A couple of bounces, but we got it in the air. So yeah, you can fly this on water too. Coming around, whoa. I don't want to lose it. Gotta be careful here. Okay, let's see if I can do a touch and go. Well, let me fly it around just for a little bit here while we can. In this little area. Now watch, you can go steer this thing right, you can steer this thing left, and you can also go backwards by pushing both forward. But let's turn it to the right and try to get in the air again. It skips like a stone. But it eventually gets into the air. It does. It can fly in water. So, advertised to be able to fly in water, it can, as you can see there. I'm going over this way here. Maybe I can sit out. No, I just want to get in a better spot here to see the airplane. The sun was in a little bit in my eye over there. Going the other way now. Turning, 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 reducing throttle. This is a fun little plane. I'm trying to come in for a landing. It skips. Can I get it back in the air again? I don't think so. So it's wet. It's got water on it. But you can now drive it like a boat. It drives like a nice boat. Try to get it in the air again. I got to wipe the water off of it. Let's bring it over. I'll wipe water off of it. They tell you that if it has a hard time getting back in the air again, wipe the water droplets off because they do weigh it down. I'm just going to go like that. Shake it off. Shake it off. Give it another shot. Let's go back over here. Launch it from this area here. See if I can get back in the air one more time. Oops, there's water on it. Aw. I'm going to have to go over and get it. It flipped. Steering it. So hold on, folks, while I go get it. It can flip, as you can see here. Trying to steer it backwards. I'm steering it backwards by holding both buttons down. It works underwater, as you can see here. I wonder what that beeping's about. Maybe it's telling me that we're out of power. Bring it back over toward me. So we're going to call it quits there, folks. It can be launched from the water. Not the best way to do it, though. It bounces quite a bit, as you see there. But yeah, it definitely can be launched from water. You want to do it with a full battery, perfectly calm water like you see here, and without any water, make sure it's completely dry. So that was just a quick test flight demonstrating in here that demonstrate a launch from water, and it did. So that is the ZY425. Interesting little plane. Kind of fun to fly, especially if you're just not flying on water. It could do it, but it's more, but well, I still got battery power. Let's use it to run it like a boat. It is a boat, too. I'm not going full speed with it. But as you can see here, now let's try those backward buttons. So going forward again, let's steer it around the area. So yeah, it can take off when its battery's fully charged. And later, when it gets wet, you can run it like a boat. I'm running it until those lights flash. So the rain report, we're going to be running this as a C. Under its C mode. In other words, as a boat. Trying to keep up with it. Fun little plane, what it can do, huh? And it's proportional steering too, in water. So for the price of this thing, it's actually a lot of fun. I hope they can keep the price of this down, because a lot of people I think would like this. A lot of kids would love this. You know, whether if you want to fly it again, I recommend flying it in a field. Although you can, if you got a pond. Oh, now it wants to take off. I'm not going to do it. It's trying to take off. I guess it dried down enough, or dried off enough that it was ready to take off, but I'm not going to do it. We've already demonstrated it. I just want to run it as a boat. Do some figure eights as a boat. Now, okay, there goes the lights. We're going to call it quit there. Quits there with the lights. That means the battery's getting low. So let's get it out of there and say our final thoughts on this thing. For the price, this is an excellent first beginner's airplane for the beginner pilot who wants to go out to their local field and learn to fly. You'll learn how to use the, steer an aircraft using, well, in this case, we're going to use aileron control. What would be aileron control? And you also learn how to control a throttle to make the aircraft go up or down. And at the same time, you're also learning orientation, how to maintain orientation of the aircraft as it's flying toward you and away from you. Additionally, yeah, it could take off from land, and it could take off hand launched too, and it could take off launched from water, although it's a little more sketchy taking off from water, but it also works as a boat. So all in all, this is a fun toy. I recommend it, especially if they can keep it in the under $30 price range. This would be a great toy for most beginner pilots. So I hope you enjoyed these flights. This is Quadcopter 101, signing out.
Hi, Quadcopter 101 here again. Hey, if you want to get your own shout out in one of my future videos, make sure you subscribe to my channel. It's real simple. Just go to my channel page and click on that subscribe. And also make sure to click that bell button right next to the subscribe button. That way you get notified when I release a brand new video immediately and give you a chance to get that first shout out. So give it a try, folks.